you need some of the leaders to kind of elevate the team and take it to the next level. And I think some of that, I think, guys, there's a little bit of over time when you lose a lot of games, there's a lack of belief that starts to eat away at you. And that part needed to change.
It's all brought to you by Steinhoffels. It is our pleasure to bring in the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles joins us with a busy offseason yet again. Have you had a chance to take a breath at all this offseason?
No. There has not been much breathing going on in this offseason, but got enough energy to keep it rolling and make some big moves to get this team in the right position.
We were there the day that Ben Johnson was introduced at the press conference. We broadcast from there. What have you learned in the month following about Ben Johnson that you did not know?
So there was a narrative before about him being an introvert, quiet, no presence. That couldn't be further from the truth. This guy has changed the energy level in the building. He has the ability to communicate at a high level. It's been great for us, clear vision of what he wants for the football team and the type of players that we need to take the next step, which is outstanding. And I think the biggest thing is just how thoughtful and strategic he is. And I saw that play out in the coaching staff search. It wasn't just grabbing guys. It wasn't grabbing friends. There was a reason why he was bringing each coach here and also being aware of the chemistry of the entire group. So that was very calming for me because there was a lot of criteria that were in there. It wasn't just picking guys to come in and coach. There was a reason behind it, which is comforting.
Collectively, what was the first thing on your guys' to-do list, and what have you guys already checked off of that list?
Yeah, it's to really go through the scheme of what he wants to do, and same for Dennis. And we even had a review with Hightower to make sure we're lined up. Because when you go into this season where you're looking to acquire players, you want to make sure it's the right players. You don't want to waste draft picks, money, and time bringing in guys that don't fit. So sitting there and going through position by position what that looks like, and really where's the guardrails of what we can work within, where if you go outside of that, maybe it's speed in a certain position, maybe it's a lack of physicality in certain positions that it's just not going to work, and we want to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck.
When you look back at last season offensively, maybe this is just an exercise you did, or maybe it was collectively with Ben, and you see what you invested in the offense, and then statistically the results weren't what you wanted. When you look back, was it more a combination of things? Was it maybe we overrated our personnel a little bit? Was it a lack of development? Where would you say kind of the mistakes were made with regard to not getting more out of that offense?
Yeah, it was a combination of things that led to kind of where we were. But I know with, again, how thoughtful he is and how much I value that alignment, that make an impact and bring the right guys in. We're going to coach them up. We're going to develop them and put them in a position to be successful.
As far as Caleb Williams goes, and you talk about narratives, and you always say to us, hey, I want you guys to come to me with stuff instead of putting stuff out there. There have been whispers about, is Caleb as hard of a worker as it's been perceived? Kirk Herbstreit said something on Thursday Night Football that, hey, maybe he doesn't. And then there have been reports. We have not gone with that. So we ask you, the general manager of the Bears, the guy who picked Caleb number 1 overall, does Caleb work as hard as he's supposed to as the quarterback of the Bears?
He does. He is the first in, last out type of guy. That remains the truthful. I think the big important thing there is how do you work? There's a pro way of preparing, and that setting that part up is, I think, the part that we need to pick up the speed on. This isn't college, so it takes a different rhythm of the week to get prepared. And a lot of these young guys need to be shown how to do that. What does the week look like? Break it down to the hour. What type of film are they watching? And the how is the part that we got to develop and get to the next level, because the environment has shifted, and I could go on and on and on about the college environment right
Yeah.
now. It does not set these guys up for success in the league at all. That's why it's so important for us to have a developmental plan that's very detailed on how they prepare in the offseason and in the season as well.
Well, it was some of that too. Was he not guided correctly by the previous coaching staff? Because there have been those reports out there as well.
Yeah, I think the mindset was to make sure he was prepared for the week. I think I mentioned this before. I just think there's a few steps that were probably skipped to get him to the pro level of preparation.
And no regrets over. A year ago, we were sitting with you, and we were asking you about Caleb, and
Yep.
obviously Jaden had a great year.
Yeah.
No regrets over
No.
what you did.
No, not at all.
So now the focus is helping him the best way that you can. So the plan with you and Ben is what to try and get the best out of him.
Well, I think you go back a step from there. It's when we went into this coaching search, it was obviously criteria of a leader, someone that was going to put a staff together. But part of that was the plan to develop players, but also a plan to develop a quarterback as well. And Ben knocked that out of the park with his plan, and that's going to start, as soon as we possibly can start. So, with him, it's just going to bring it down to the ground floor and build up that foundation of, again, how do you prepare, how do you get ready for a season, how do you get ready for a game. And there's certain things that he's got to perfect and be an expert at before we kick off the season.
Has his evaluation of the talent been in any way different than yours? And when there is a disagreement, how do you guys resolve that disagreement?
Yeah, it's been aligned from the beginning. We see things very similar. I think that'll pick up. I'm sure we'll have kind of difference of opinions in certain spots when we get into free agency and the draft. I think we see the current roster the same way in terms of how we need to attack it to get it to the level where we can have success, and that's important.
Ben used the tight end a whole lot in Detroit. Cole was kind of a missing element.
Mm-hmm.
Is Cole still a foundation piece for what you're trying to do on offense?
Yeah, he is. He is. I think, again, working through a setup with a young quarterback, there's some things that didn't work out very well this year that took away from Cole and his ability, and I have a lot of faith that that's going to pick back up.
A couple of things from last year. I know you're looking forward. We would always, on our pregame show, play your outstanding interviews, and we always appreciate your time with Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that gives us great insight. The one thing you said after the Washington game, before the Arizona game, is we have a locker room that
Mm-hmm.
will not let that loss bring us down.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, you guys lost 10 in a row.
Yep.
What did you misevaluate about the culture in the locker room that then led to the 10 games in a row that you thought wouldn't happen?
Yeah, I think, we went on the road after that to Arizona and did not play well at all. And I think that's when you need some of the leaders to kind of elevate the team and take it to the next level. And I think some of that, guys, there's a little bit of over time when you lose a lot of games, there's a lack of belief that starts to eat away at you. And that part needed to change, and we needed that one moment to flip the switch and get back on the right track, and then it didn't come at all. So for me, when we look at bringing in new players and acquiring new players in this offseason, again, we're always going to focus on the resiliency, but guys coming from winning organizations, guys that have leadership that, again, can pull in the other direction when things are starting to ebb away. We got to get stronger in that. We got to get better. I think our youth of our team kind of showed up as well. We need guys to kind of elevate above those hard times.
Waddle talked about this as he was a former player, that as much as coaching came into the focal point, that maybe the players were doing too much finger pointing and not enough looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you would agree on?
Well, I think it's a challenge. You got to stay inward in terms of not letting kind of the pressure start to get inside the locker room. I never had any issue with guys pointing fingers at each other. There was no conflict or drama inside the locker room at all. I just think the energy level kind of dropped a little bit, and it needed to be picked up. And again, to flip the current and get it going the other way. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes big plays. And we had some opportunities. We were knocking on the door where we could have switched that up, and it didn't work out. And again, those are those moments you got to capture to kind of break the trend.
Obviously, some of the offseason focus is going to be on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. With the guys that you have currently on the offensive line, what can you tell us about Braxton Jones and Amagaji with regard to their health and what your plan is for the two of them?
Yeah. Braxton is rehabbing. He's in there every day getting back healthy. So he should be on track. And then Karan, I've got hit by some people that used to play for the Bears that are going to work with him in the offseason to get him to take the next step. And what I love is there's an alignment with Dan and Kyle in terms of what he needs to do to take his game to the next level. And he's going to attack that in the offseason to take the next step. And we have a lot of belief in the coaches that came in see the upside with Karan as well. And I
Are you saying that Olin may be roughing him up a little bit, toughening him up a little bit?
Yeah. So he'll have some good training. Yes, the staff coming in believes in Karan. And again, he has the flexibility. I think he can play guard or tackle. So we'll look to put the best 5 out there. And, I've seen Darnell down there training already, getting in shape. Probably training like a receiver, so he passes his test again. So,
nice.
But yeah, looking forward to adding to that group. And getting it on track so we can, be really good in the run game, but also protect and be balanced, which I think is critical.
Yeah.
Ryan, as far as you're concerned with what you've been able to do and not be able to do in the first 3 years, you've changed coaches, you've changed quarterbacks. What have you changed about yourself and the front office to make sure that there are guardrails in place where you have more success with free agency and with the draft?
Yeah, we always do, after action reports where we look back in previous years and see what went well, what didn't go well, and why. Because the last thing you want to do is make repetitive mistakes. There's no growth that's going to happen there. So kind of just making those moments where we self-reflect and learn from those things, and also do a lot of research on the history of free agency to put ourselves in a position so we're making good decisions that kind of match what teams do, that hit in free agency as well as the draft. We just promoted Matt Feinstein to VP of football admin, and he does a lot of that research for us, side by side with the analytics team, constantly looking at, what do good football teams, winning football teams do in these situations.
Real quick, I know you got to go, but you've been fiscally responsible for 3 years. Is it time to spend?
Yeah.
I mean,
big
you're going to
bag
go
of
out
money,
there and
Ryan.
start writing checks?
Big game hunting. What do you say?
Yeah, no, you want to spend smart. And again, I'll bring that back to Matt is how you structure your contracts. You can spend big, but at the same time, you got to make sure that, and this is huge now, and I know we all lose perspective of this. It's not about just this one shot, and then all of a sudden we're back to having no money, and our cap situation is a hot mess, and then it's like, well, why do we do that?
Well, that's not our fault.
No, I know.
A year
I
from
have
now,
to think
let
so.
us spend it. Come on.
That's my job. I get it. So
Let us pick one. Can we have one guy we can pick?
No. But, we'll be smart through free agency. That doesn't mean we don't go after, some of the big guys that are out there. We just got to make sure that contracts make sense for us, both short-term and long-term.
All right, best of luck. We
Thanks for
always
your time.
appreciate you joining us.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
so much.
Thank you.
There's Ryan Poles. We're live at the Combine, and we're coming back with more next on ESPN 1000, your home for the Bears.